Welcome back to World of Immersion. It has been quite a while since our last video. I'm sorry about that. We've been very busy recently. However, we have tons of content coming up, especially as it gets into the Halloween season. We're going to have tons of content from Halloween Horror Nights, Fright Fest, Not Scary Farm, and a bunch of other smaller haunt events in the future. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss when we have brand new content. But today, we're going to be talking about Halloween Horror Nights 2023 and the mistakes that you should never make when you're visiting. This is going to be our full tips and tricks videos for surviving Halloween Horror Nights this year, and this year is really going to be incredible. The lineup of mazes that have been announced for this year looks insane. You got Stranger Things, Last of Us, Chucky, just to name a few, and there's still more to be announced. So stay tuned. We're going to cover everything you need to know about Halloween Horror Nights and exactly how you should go about spending your day at the park so you're able to maximize your time. All right, everybody, let's get right into the video. Alright, so starting off, our first mistake that you can make when visiting the park is going to be showing up late. Now, Halloween Horror Nights starts at 7 p.m. every night. However, this year, they have added in a new thing with early entry. It used to be something that was included on every ticket that was purchased online. However, now is an additional $10 to $25 depending on the night. If you purchase early entry, which I would highly recommend, especially if you're going on a peak day, you're going to be getting into the park at 6 p.m. Now, I would suggest showing up at least 45 minutes prior to that 6 p.m. so that you have time to park and walk all the way to the entrance, and sometimes they'll even open the park earlier than 6 p.m. Sometimes they'll open it at like 5:30 and let you walk down to the mazes, because the lower lot mazes are going to be ones that are open during early entry. They'll let you walk down to the mazes even though the mazes don't open until 6 p.m. so you can hop in line and be one of the first people in line for those mazes. If you do purchase early entry, you will have a full hour to do all of the mazes in the lower lot before the rest of the park gets to go onto those mazes. So like I said, I would highly recommend purchasing it. However, if you do not plan on purchasing it, I would still recommend showing up early, because it's very possible they'll let you into the park earlier than 7 p.m. even if you don't have early entry. However, if you are not purchasing early entry, I would not suggest going down to the lower lot mazes, as all of the early entry people are going to be down there. I would go instead to the Curious George lot mazes. We'll talk about this later in the video about where you should go and how you should go about doing your night. However, if you're not purchasing early entry, like I said, I would recommend going to the Curious George lot mazes, which are going to be through the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. All right, the next mistake you can make is eating in the park during the event. Now, I know this one sounds a bit silly, especially because there is special food for the event, which can be really cool. However, eating food in the park takes up so much time. If you're planning on eating any food while you're at Halloween Horror Nights, I would recommend either doing it before you go into the park for the event, as in you would do it in City Walk or before you even get to the park in the first place, or I would recommend doing it much later in the evening after you've knocked out a bunch of the mazes. If you do it during the peak maze time, like 8 or 9 p.m., you're going to be missing out on crucial time to do some of these mazes that you're not going to be able to make up later in the night. I always like to eat food before I get into the park. I would show up to the park around 4:30, have an early dinner in City Walk, and then maybe get a snack later in the evening and try out some of the specialty foods as a snack, rather than waiting in those long lines for food during the majority of the event. All right, but the next tip is going to be kind of a weird one. This one is going to be going in October. Now, I know this one sounds a bit funny, and obviously take this one with a little bit of a grain of salt. But going in October can sometimes be a mistake for Halloween Horror Nights. As fun as it is to go during the month of Halloween, it can be extremely expensive and really crowded. The park gets sold out on almost every single night in October, especially those Fridays and Saturdays. And as you get closer and closer to Halloween, you're going to be looking at 100+ minute waits for almost every single maze. I remember last year, those last few Saturdays in October, almost every single maze was a 2 to 3 hour wait, which is insane for one single maze. If you go in September, first of all, the tickets are going to be roughly $30 to $50 cheaper than if you were to go in October, and you're going to be looking at significantly less crowds, which is why I would definitely suggest going in September if you can. The event starts September 7th, which is really early. You have almost the entire month of September to go to the event. I know for sure I'm going to be going opening night and a bunch of other nights in September, but I probably won't be going as much in October because of how expensive and crowded it gets. So I would definitely recommend going in September if you can. All right, now going back to what mazes you should do, this next mistake is going to be going to the wrong mazes first. Now, I know this one also sounds a bit funny, but if you go to the most popular maze first, you're going to end up waiting in a huge line, because it's the most popular, everybody's going to go there first. I know it doesn't make a ton of sense. I know it makes sense to go to the most popular maze first so you can get it out of the way. However, that's what everybody else is thinking. Instead, if you have early entry, I would go down to the lower lot and do the other 3 mazes. That's right, there are going to be 4 mazes in the lower lot. I would do the other 3 instead of the most popular one, which of course this year is going to be Stranger Things. Stranger Things will for sure be the most popular maze of the event. I would instead do the other 3 mazes on the lower lot, that being The Exorcist, The Last of Us, and the final maze in the lower lot has not officially been announced yet. However, it is most likely Holidays in Hell based on the facade. Like I said, I would recommend doing those 3 first before you do Stranger Things. Maybe try doing Stranger Things much later in the evening as the line dies down and people go do other mazes. If you don't have early entry, I would definitely recommend going to those Curious George lot mazes like I mentioned. Those are going to be through the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. They're a little bit of a walk. However, nobody's going to go there. Everybody's going to go down to the lower lot, even if they don't have early entry. So trust me, go to those mazes first, and then you can knock out some of the other mazes in the upper lot after you're done with those. All right, the next mistake that you can make is one that I've put on almost every single mistakes video that I have, and that is trusting the posted wait times. Now, I know I mentioned how most of the wait times of the event as you get into October are going to be around 2 to 3 hours. However, almost none of these wait times are very accurate. While yes, 120 minutes is going to end up being a very long line, it's not going to be a full 2 hours. Those maze wait times are greatly exaggerated. 120 minutes is roughly going to be more like 75 minutes, in my opinion, based on my experience. Obviously, take this with a grain of salt. It's very possible that you could get in a line that's 120 minutes and it actually is 120 minutes or even more. But on average, from my experience of coming to the event in the past, those wait times are almost always double what the actual wait time is. It varies between around 50% to 75% of what that posted wait time is. So just always take that into account when you're looking at the posted wait time and thinking if you have enough time to do a maze. However, like I said, that could always be wrong and it could actually be that wait time. That's why they're greatly exaggerated, is to account for downtime or other issues that may arise when you're waiting in line that could up the wait time by quite a bit. However, on average, those wait times are going to be a lot shorter. All right, this next tip is going to be somewhat optional because it really depends on what you're going to the event for. However, in my opinion, spending a lot of your time at the beginning of the night riding rides could be a huge mistake if you're trying to do a lot of the mazes. Those rides are going to be there all the time throughout the entire year. However, during Horror Nights, the mazes are only there during September and October. So in my opinion, I would recommend not doing those rides early on in the night. If you have time later in the evening, after you've done all the mazes, absolutely go and do those rides. But in the beginning of the night, a lot of people will hop in line for those rides, especially rides like Jurassic World and The Mummy tend to get really long lines during Horror Nights. So I would definitely recommend not doing those rides early on in the night and instead focusing on the mazes and doing the rides later in the evening. You're going to end up wasting a ton of time doing those rides when you could be doing the mazes during that time, and the ride lines usually die down much later in the evening. Do be advised though, some rides close early. I know Jurassic World closes at around midnight during the event, even though the event runs until 1 or 2 a.m., so just be sure you're taking that into account. And that brings us to our next tip, which is not checking the closing times for rides or the Terror Tram or mazes. Certain mazes will close early on in the evening, and the Terror Tram does close early on as well. I believe the Terror Tram closes around 1 hour and 45 minutes prior to the park closing, which means the last tram they send out is going to be around that time. So be sure to take that into account if you're planning on doing the Terror Tram. And like I mentioned, Jurassic World definitely closes early on in the night, but a lot of other rides will also close early. So be sure you check those closing times before you decide to wait to do one of those rides or the Terror Tram. All right, our second to last tip is going to be an interesting one, and that is not checking the park map or asking around about mazes. A lot of the mazes at Universal Studios Hollywood, Halloween Horror Nights are kind of far apart from each other and hard to find. For example, this year, The Exorcist is going to be in a soundstage that is a little bit difficult to find, and that entrance might be kind of tucked away off to the right by Transformers. Additionally, like I said, the Curious George lot mazes are extremely far, and you have to walk all the way through the Wizarding World to get to them, so some people might not even notice that they're there. So make sure you check the park map, check the Universal Studios app that will have all the mazes listed on there, and be sure to ask the park employee if you don't know how to get to a maze, because you might miss out on a maze or two if you're not checking or asking. I know last year I had some friends who went to the event and completely missed out on Scarecrow and Halloween because they didn't know where they were because of how far they were in the Curious George lot. Alright, and our final mistake you could make this year is going to be not going to Halloween Horror Nights. This year is going to be such an incredible event with the lineup already almost fully announced. It looks like it's going to be an insane event. Last year was a ton of fun. Halloween Horror Nights in general is always so much fun. It's one giant party with mazes and scare actors. It is so much fun. I would highly recommend it. It is personally my favorite event at any theme park ever. So I would definitely recommend visiting it this year, especially if you're a horror fan. Even if you're not a horror fan, check it out. It's a ton of fun. I have friends that have never really liked horror movies or anything like that who come to the event, and that's what gets them into horror movies. So I would definitely recommend checking it out if you can. I know it can be expensive. I know it can be crowded. It is so much fun and is definitely worth it. So be sure to check out Halloween Horror Nights 2023 if you can and you get the chance. But thank you so much for watching our video today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to comment down below if you have any questions or if you have any other tips or tricks for our fellow people visiting Halloween Horror Nights. Be sure to check out all of our other videos. We're going to have a ton of videos from Halloween Horror Nights as soon as the event starts, especially from opening night, and we're going to have our full ranking of all of the mazes as we do every year. And be sure to stay tuned for our other content coming from other Halloween events. I know we're going to have a video very soon about Fright Fest. They recently just announced 2 new mazes that they're adding to their lineup. We'll have a video from Scary Farm when their full lineup gets announced, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss those videos, and thank you so much for watching. We will catch you in the next video.